In the year beginning April 1992, 10 people were killed at level crossings in Great Britain. 42 were injured. There was no railway equipment failure in these incidents.
A group of young people had been drinking at a pub on this side of the level crossing. They jumped into quite a high-powered vehicle and, from what eyewitnesses have said, approached at around 60 miles per hour. The barriers were down and the red lights were on at the time, and the vehicle was actually stationary at the level crossing. They overtook that vehicle, drove onto the level crossing and actually hit the train here. Because of the speed of the car and the speed of the train, it was dragged along the track before being catapulted over these near-side running lines here and eventually ending up at the top of the embankment. When I arrived at the scene, there were 4 bodies still in the car. 2 of them were alive and the front 2 passengers were dead. After a search, another body was found at the bottom of the embankment.
Obviously I had multiple injuries, quite severe concussion. I've got a very vague memory of being I was in hospital for 1 week. I've got one very vague memory of being in hospital, more just a flash in my mind when I was actually told that Marie and Louise had been killed. After that, 10 days after that, I went to the funeral. Again, I remember about 3 little parts of that day. My memory came back, I would say, in full about 3 weeks after the accident.
I would say it has saddened and shocked and created a feeling and a situation which we are striving to overcome, and yet inside I feel that we will never overcome, for the reason we can't put the clock back. We're doing as well as most people would do, but because we can't change things, because it's irrevocable what has happened, we'll never ever be the same again.
For the sake of a couple of minutes, this driver risks a fine, his licence and his life, not to mention the lives of railway workers and the public. There have been repeated efforts to bring home the monumental stupidity of ignoring the law. 2 campaigns by Raitrack in the northeast netted nearly 1,000 motorists, 90% of whom were prosecuted after cameras recorded the offence, the time and the speed of their vehicle. The driver of this bus, carrying 40 passengers, chose to continue over the crossing on red. He was fined by magistrates, lost his job and had his public service vehicle licence revoked. Potentially lethal actions include zigzagging round barriers, overtaking on crossings, ignoring warning lights, and on rural crossings, driving onto the tracks before opening the far gate. The Highway Code details clearly how to use railway level crossings. Approach them with care. Never drive onto a crossing unless the road is clear on the other side. Never queue on a crossing. The busiest crossings have lights and barriers. You must stop behind the white line when the lights come on.
Early Nook signal box.
Those in charge of large or slow-moving vehicles or animals must use the railway phone for permission to cross, and phone again when over the crossing.
We can push it off, okay.
If your vehicle obstructs the crossing for whatever reason, you must get everyone clear, then use the railway phone. If possible, move the vehicle, but get yourself clear if the lights and alarm activate. So where a crossing has lights and alarms, obey them. Where there are barriers but no lights, stop as they begin to close. At unattended crossings with gates, use the phone if there is one. Open both gates before moving over the crossing. Tell the signal operator you are clear and close the gates. At open crossings with no phone, gates, barriers, attendant or traffic lights, look both ways, listen, then cross without delay. Whatever type of crossing, act sensibly within the law. Where relevant, read instruction signs, obey lights and barriers, and use the railway telephone.
thinking back to that day when I thought that could have been the end of it. Like, I wouldn't have had my little son now. 70 mile an hour. I was come through East Bolton Station. I could see in the distance a vehicle waiting to cross the crossing about 2 mile up ahead. As I slowly approached this crossing, the vehicle began to move out in front of me. I thought, oh no, he's not going to come. He can't be possibly going to come out in front of us. So I blew the horn and he kept crossing. So I applied the brakes, and from then you're just helpless watching. I think I hit him at about 35 mile an hour. Took the back end clean off, and I stopped about 200 yards down the track.
Railway level crossings have proven safe in all circumstances when used according to the rules. Observing instruction signs, lights and barriers will ensure your safety. Using the railway phone and acting sensibly at unmanned crossings will get you across without problems. The alternative speaks most eloquently for itself.